Hi there, I missed you. Here's a thought. Baking is love made edible. Author unknown. Well, imagine 1 month from now, we're going to be in spring. Here on Vancouver Island, the crocuses and snowdrops, as well as hummingbirds, have been shivering from a cold snap that came our way. But hey, it's all perspective. It's not Winnipeg cold. So on we go, despite the insanity around us. And maybe because of it, we consider ourselves lucky. Again, it's all perspective. And by the way, if you're having trouble sleeping, as so many of us are, the newest story free on Drift this week is the Velveteen Rabbit. And I know you're going to love it as much as I did in telling it. Back when lockdowns began, you couldn't open a news or social media site without reading that somebody was making bread or had a sourdough starter. Now, to me, that might as well have been like building a car from scratch, or even these days doing Wordle. Not my lane, but if you love doing it, then great. But I'm just going to move over and get off at the next stop. So look, I'm going to understand if you say, oh, that's old news, when I tell you what's been going on in our little insular lives. I started this year with a purpose. I was going to get acquainted with my kitchen. I bought a nice set of pots and pans, so pretty that they have to have their own tea towel for drying. I know. I got a heavy-duty artist's apron in turquoise I would show you, except that my green screen stuff, it would just go all blurry. And it matches my kitchen. I started looking at recipes and then made a file to keep the ones that seemed possible. I stepped through my fear and aimed at becoming a better cook. Now, part of this, I think I told you, came from embarrassment. Rob and I have been invited to no fewer than 3 dinners in people's houses in the last few months of 2021, and I was paralyzed with fear over reciprocating. I mean, it's one thing to have forgiving family over and meet them with 2 chewy scalloped potatoes or a cheesecake whose base refused to form properly. But when you have a few excellent chefs in your slowly increasing circle of friends, and you realize how downright rude it is not to invite them over, you've got to make a choice. We can pay for restaurant dinners, and we have, or step up and learn a few things at long last. Becoming better at cooking was something I had always said I would do in rewirement. And while heating up a bag of frozen pasta and shrimp does nicely for Rob and me for dinner, it just won't cut it for company outside of family. So, a few weeks ago, I decided I'd try making bread. My favorite kind is focaccia, a cake-like bread that you dot with rosemary and sea salt. I found a recipe that called for the dough to be refrigerated for at least 24 hours, can be up for 48 hours if you want, and I thought, okay, I'll give that a try. I am happy to tell you that the first time I did it, it was a success, but that scared me because I thought, okay, it's a fluke. But I made it again for Family Day weekend. It went from the fridge after 24 hours of rising to this, and then this, and finally this. And yes, it was every bit as good as it looks. Everybody said so, and they weren't just being nice because they're family, so they don't. But here's my one last quandary, okay? First time I made it, the place on which it sat and rose for the afternoon was on a counter over a running dishwasher. And so that counter gets nice and warm. And I wondered, was it the warm countertop that was the secret to it rising so perfectly? So, just to be safe, I timed my dishwasher running with the rising bread for the second focaccia I made. And as you saw, it was perfect. So is this like dishwasher bread, or will it be fine without it? Stay tuned for As the Bread Rises, or Erin eventually gets a life, coming soon to the Food Network. No, it isn't. The recipe is at erindavis.com if you want to try it, and trust me, it does have the thumbs up from everybody who has enjoyed it at our table, and they weren't just being nice. We're open about what could be improved at every sitting, so I get it right when friends come over, which we all hope will be sooner than later. Have a good weekend, and I'll be back with you here on Monday.